this, the dungeon master's wrath with a dash of sick. I dash like Sonic Mad, not a pacifist, but pacifist the tracks when I'm rapping, kids. We the last of us, the master race. Take him with a master hand, it's cancerous. I hit him with the master sword, and sure I make an eyesore, but I wonder how 4 guys make a Triforce.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. You're listening to episode number 132. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am your host for this evening. Much more sober than I was last week on a Monday evening. Oh no, I think I actually lost everybody's microphone. Someone say something.
Something.
Yes! Hey, my microphone's working. My headset's working. Anyway.
You're not wearing a headset. You're wearing earbuds.
Yeah, that's why. I'm trying to do something new this week so you guys can see my hair. And my...
I was going to say, was that because you got a haircut and you're just showing it off now?
Yep.
You guys want to see my hair? I woke up and didn't do anything to it. So.
Nice. I like it. That's fine. He's got that standard def cam.
Got that natural beauty.
That standard def cam. That's right. Dom called it out right now. So as you guys can see, there is a different group of people this week. This is not the normal group of people, obviously, but that's because DeClaude is out entertaining family, and his birthday is this week, so happy birthday, DeClaude. And Sean is sick and got my sickness from December, so he is out. So we brought back on Recker's penis.
This is my face, actually.
Wrong head.
Yeah.
Penis will be there later.
I could stand up if you like.
No. Please keep your pants on. And the jungler from Ert Can't Stun / Trinity Force podcast,
my replacement,
Shoemaker, Recker's replacement, is now joining us for this week. So say hello.
Hello, everyone.
You guys might have seen him modding the channel sometimes too.
Yeah, I'm here all the time modding and answering questions in chat, kind of taking on that role for the podcast.
That's right. He is the head moderator, as we will say.
As I like to call myself.
So, yes, thank you for joining us this week. I almost called you Sean because I'm reading chat. Thanks for joining this week, Josh. Recker, let's talk about your penis for a second. What have you been up to?
Just stroking my penis a lot.
Boy, it did not take long for us to earn that explicit tag this week, huh?
No, it took about 40 minutes last week where I yelled the word fuck over and over again.
Wait, is the word penis actually explicit?
I would think some people would
That's like the
explicit.
proper term for it. That's not really a curse.
You want me to call it a cock?
That's explicit.
There we go. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
3 minutes in. All right, let's say some news real quick. Guys, don't forget to go check out TrinityForcePodcast.com. We are slowly working on turning the Trinity Force podcast page into like a hub where you guys will be able to catch not only our podcast, but other podcasts around the area. You guys will be able to find twitch.tv there. You guys will be able to find our Twitter page, the store, all that stuff. So as we progress with this podcast in the 2014, you guys will see lots of changes, and we'll start talking about that as we start to grow. So I'm just kind of giving you a little heads up here what we're thinking about doing. Foreshadowing. Anyway, guys, don't forget to go check out store.trinityforcepodcast.com where you guys can go find t-shirts, the podcast to your horse t-shirt. You can go find you want to do something stupid, and then the regular T-Force logo. They're $20 with $4 shipping in continental United States, and I want to say it's like $7 shipping outside of that. But they ship everywhere around the world, so go buy a t-shirt because I really want to see one of these days someone needs to buy a t-shirt and go to the LCS and be on screen with the t-shirt. I want to see it.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. We'll give you a free shirt if you do that. How about that?
I agree with that. I will 100% pay you for another free t-shirt for you or a friend.
You wear it at the LCS,
okay,
you'll get a free shirt. You
get one, and you get on screen at LCS, you get a free t-shirt. How are you guys even going to put... You know what, we'll go into logistics later.
We'll have to have someone sign a contract, obviously, that they're actually going to wear it to the LCS. And then we'll have to have a lawyer... sign it and look it over. We'll get it notarized.
I need a t-shirt.
Yeah, right. Give it to your friend. I want you to walk up and have Rivington sign it, and give us the picture of it signed next to Rivington or something. I don't know.
There you go. And touch his face because he said
Rivington only. We won't settle for Jet.
That's right. No
hey,
Jet.
I like Jet better than Riv.
Yeah, Jet's the best.
No way. Riv and Kobe are the best.
Oh, Jet's the man.
You
Come
like
on.
Blind Alley
Riv and Kobe.
Blind
That's where
Alley
it's at.
Rivington?
Huh?
What's
Blind
that?
Alley Rivington. Now, here's my best Rivington impersonation. And so he starts talking. He's like, oh, and then Kennen is out there in the top lane. He's bought a Doran shield. And next he's probably going to have to buy a cloth armor. But then there's Renekton, who does a little bit of magic damage. So maybe he should buy a no magic mantle. But then there's Shyvana that's also on the team. And then I don't really know where to go from this. So I'm going to continue talking until someone else interrupts me. And oh my god, a team fight's starting to take it over.
That's what Kobe's there for. He interrupts him all the time.
That's Blind Alley Rivington. Anyway, so guys, don't forget to check us out. T-Force, youtube.com/T-Force podcast. You will be able to find the live show, so you can see Josh's face, you can see Recker's face, you can see Dom's face, and everybody else.
Only this week, though.
Yeah, it's only this week. Unfortunately, we're throwing Josh back into the moderator.
Well, you don't
channel.
know. You don't know. Sean might never recover.
He might die.
That's what I'm
Thanks.
hoping
We
for.
can only hope.
That's what I'm going for.
All right. How about some League of Legends discussion?
Wait,
you
what?
insist.
Well, I suppose we can take care of it. So, last week we had Moobidon to talk about the PBE. A lot of the stuff we wanted to talk about has been like killed over the last 2 weeks because we had Moobidon, we had the feed skion from Dominion. I'm gonna keep smacking my palm, and I think
So what you're saying
going
is
to
I
do.
had like the worst possible time to come back.
You have the worst possible time, but I think this is a great week to come back because what I want to talk about this week is ranked fives. We've had a lot of emails come in about you guys saying, hey, how do I get a ranked fives team started? How do I play ranked fives? What should I be focusing on? And I thought this would be really good with Josh, Recker, and Dom on this podcast.
Yeah, I actually
because
just
we've all
started
played
putting
together.
or just joined a ranked fives team that's getting put together. We haven't started yet, but we're trying to get our first 5.
So why don't we start into first how do you find a ranked fives team, and what should be your goal as a ranked fives team? Nathan, do you want to take that off?
Well, as a ranks 5 team, your goal can be whatever you'd like. It can be getting into the LCS, it can be improving, it can be just fucking around, it can be whatever you like, as long as all 5 guys are on board with what you want. I remember back when you and I were actually first putting together our ranked 5s team, we posted on Reddit and said, hey, this is our personality. We like to fuck around, but when it comes to the game, we take it pretty seriously. We're not necessarily looking to be the best, but we're looking to be the best we can.
And that's that's like the biggest thing you have to actually decide first is the tone of the team that you want. Because I've created probably 4 or 5 of my own before I joined Urk and Stun. And the problem I would always run into is I was more serious than half the team sometimes. And finding that balance of like people who, they got to fit in with you more importantly. Like you want to be friends with them. But you got to make sure they're not just doing it for fun and you're doing it to make it into LCS. Or, vice versa.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm like the exact opposite of your guys' story.
You just want to play for fun.
No, that's pretty, like, my ranked 5s team is basically, it's me and my brother and then a bunch of his friends from his MMO days, and, like, they just kind of dragged me through the level up process and everything, making me play against level 30s and that type of shit while I was on my, brand new account. But I got to know them. We were having a good time, and I just kind of took to the support role, and everybody kind of figured out positions from there. And yeah, we really just played to have fun.
When I play ranked 5s, I try to take it as seriously as I can. I can probably get in 3 to 4 games in a night before I call it quits because it's very demanding to continually shot call. And like the way this has worked, and Josh, you hit it on earlier, you have to find that team that really works together, because if you're all friends, you can play and then you just have to have a goal. Like we're gonna play and kind of show you. Like, well, let me back this up. Wednesday nights when we play the T-Force Podcast 5s, we're just a bunch of group of friends playing and having fun and trying to show you how communication works. But then when you get into those, like, I want to get better at the game. That's kind of what the Urk Can Stun team does with Josh and me and Punch and everybody. That you need to. Once you figure out where you want to go, like we want to start doing tournaments. We want to start doing the Alienware tournaments. We want to start doing the ESL tournaments and whatnot. So you have to start really paying attention to the pro team and sit down and have team meetings, or even have somebody watching the team games and telling you what you're doing wrong. And that's where I think the disconnect comes between I'm a silver level, or I'm in silver ranked 5s and I'm in gold ranked 5s. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Like there is like a big disparity in the teams there.
I can say unquestionably that playing with a group of guys and sticking with a dedicated role made me a better player. Mm-hmm. Just solo queue, I think, breeds a lot of bad habits in people. Like, you kind of only have to be mindful for yourself because you're not, odds are bad, you're going to run into these people the next time. So yeah, you're trying to win the game, but it's not like you're taking ownership of the team and like really bonding with these guys. The big moments you have are just big moments for you. It's not really shared between everybody else. And the second you have like a ranked team together and you start having those really big, just high moments, like, a clutch Baron steal, or you you win a team fight, anything like that, you really start to come together and grow as a team and grow as a player. And those become so much more meaningful that you want to have more of them.
I think you bring up a really good point when the whole sticking in one role and becoming a better player. Because ever since I've become a dedicated jungler, I've learned the mid and top and AD carry roles, which I didn't normally play, just because I was so in sync with my teammates. I knew what they were doing anyway. So I've just learned to mimic what my teammates do when I now go into those roles.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, you can't teach the mechanical element of it. Like, if you're a bad last hitter, that's something you just have to work on, or play support or jungle. But, you can definitely learn how to do the other roles better just from being in the position you're familiar with and watching.
Yeah, and playing in ranked fives, it actually teaches you, like, you'll learn faster how to get better because your friends are more apt to give you constructive criticism, as opposed to solo queue.
That's
when people are just raging at you.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, like, when you're giving criticism to somebody on your team, make sure you're giving it in a manner which they're receiving it appropriately, and make sure you're receiving criticism appropriately if someone's giving it to you. Because if you don't, then you're just going to turn into a rage fest. When Pona and I first put our ranked fives team together after Reddit, I think we maybe went through 3 or 4 people before we got our final team, and we were pretty lucky with the few people we went through.
Right.
But
I didn't realize you guys put your team together through Reddit. That's actually
That's how I did all mine.
actually, that's where we found Punch and Urtai.
Okay, so I'm also the exception here. Is like I just happened to band with a group of guys from the get-go.
I thought Punch and Urtai came from
Oh no!
calling
They came
on
from
Twitter.
Channel. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our original people were from Reddit.
When we first started, we went on Reddit. We had Cheval, who was playing mid lane, and she played mid lane all throughout season 2 for us until she had to start school. And then we picked up, I just started finding mid laners to try to pick up, and it was just going through my friends list. But the bottom lane that we originally started with, and this is where it didn't start to mesh, and this is why you see probably a lot of the pro teams fails because they don't mesh. I mean, it was Genja and Edward who said for the longest time that they can't play together because of either Genja or Edward's attitude. But these two, they came together as a pair, bottom lane, and there was just one game where the guy gave up where it was totally obvious we could win, but he got pissed off because something happened in the game. Totally childish, just childish behavior. And at that point, that's when you have to make the decision, this isn't going to work anymore. And I think now that the Trinity Force podcast is more of a community, that a lot of you guys out there can go onto the T-Force channel and NA. I mean, we have 200 people sitting in there. And go find yourself a ranked fives. I've seen lots of you guys duoing. So if you haven't already put together a ranked fives, go find 5 people from the channel and just start trying and feeding people through. And don't feel bad for saying, hey, we're going to try someone else this week, because obviously, unless you're like best friends, like I can't kick Recker from a team.
Yeah.
Right, when I
We've
was
been
setting
playing together since high school, all sorts of games.
when I was setting up my teams, I probably went through altogether 50 to 75 people over the 5 team, over 3 years of me playing the game. And people, they typically don't take it that hard. If you're like just let them know from the get-go that you're trying out other people.
Right.
Don't just one day just start ignoring them and they're like, hey, I thought we had practice today. And when you're going through people.
Dom, did you have something?
No.
Okay. You look like you were about to say something. Anyway.
Oh, just drinking that beer.
I think, so we've discussed, how to get the team together. I think another one of the big things here is setting a date at least once a week where you can play with a goal. I know from playing for the past 2 years that it was, when we first started, it was just play and get better and learn as a team. But eventually, after doing tournaments and playing together, we realized that we needed to have some kind of goal for this week. And this week was, I remember 2 weeks ago, we played, and I told Josh, I said, Josh, this is my criticism for you. And I gave you, 4 points of criticism?
Yeah, well, the dragon, the big point was that I need to focus, because I'm the jungler, and I'm the shout caller in the early game. So we made a point that we needed to control more dragons. And, once you said that, from just by you telling me that one thing, it definitely helped. Like that night, we saw an improvement in our game of dragon control. And that was our goal for the night. And we ended up actually making an improvement in that.
Dom is
you know why I'm laughing.
Yeah,
I'm laughing.
I don't know why Dom's laughing. I just look over and he's got this smirk on his face.
You want to tell him?
Dom is giggling because Dom and I talk every single day. via G chat, and he is my third party that can watch some of the games, or every once in a while can tell watch the stream and tell me what's going on. And when he said, you guys don't take a lot, you guys don't really take dragons, and you don't focus on the early game, you don't focus on early towers, what's going on there?
It was even like when I was watching the stream, you would say dragons coming up in 10 seconds or something, and then you would go back to base. Like, instead of going over to dragon so that you could take it right away, you would go back to base. And it's like, okay, if you do that, and the enemy, like, especially if the enemy had it on the timer and everything, like, they're going to get it. You have given up dragon just by going back to base, like, at that point. And it was stuff like that I just kept bringing up. Like, you guys just, you were giving dragon to them.
Right.
And it wasn't just you. I mean, like, it's a team thing and everything. Everybody would go back to base. In some cases, like, okay, let's go gear up for dragon because it's in 10 seconds.
Yep. And then we realized when somebody brought that to our attention, we're like, okay, so we need to be like dragons in 45 seconds. We need to base now, not when dragons in 10 seconds basing then. So.
Right. I think I've talked about bookkeeping a ton, and that all goes into bookkeeping, is understanding that I have 700 gold in my inventory. Is that 20 extra gold and giving up dragon to get my magic resist item worth it to give up that 200 gold in dragon? At that point, it's not. And how do I fight dragon? And that's all these conversations you need to have. And these will make you a better player. And it'll especially make you a better player in solo queue, because suddenly you start understanding there's 5 people standing, you've got dragon pit in the river, and you got 5 people standing here and 5 people standing here, and they're shooting at dragon. How do we engage it?
Boy, this is going to be great for the people who are going to download and listen.
I thought about it at the same time, but no, like, you've got 5 people in the dragon, you've got 5 people shooting at the dragon around the pit, you got 5 people in the river trying to doing the dance, and you watch LCS, and when they try to make their engages, and it's when somebody makes one mistake. And at the play, at gold and platinum level play, even silver and bronze, people are going to make more than one mistake. And you need to recognize those mistakes, and playing as a team is going to make you a better solo queue player because of that. Because you start recognizing those little mistakes.
As far as the large scale bookkeeping stuff goes, like, definitely dragon timer, baron timer, and even, I mean, you should really have a good sense of enemy position in a lot of cases, but a lot of that does fall on support in ranked 5s. We've talked in the past about how it's sort of like the information provider of the team because of the low income nature of the position, but like, you really do need to be on top of that type of stuff when you're playing support. It's different. Like, marksmen have to be in charge of their own individual bookkeeping. Like, is the 20 or 40 gold really going to make a big difference in the next fight? But marksmen have so many other things that they need to worry about that, like, that's where the support needs to step up and just support the rest of the team.
Right, and that's even what we said about about me jungling, is I took on since I'm jungling, there's not much I'm doing when I'm not ganking. So we said me and Urtai, who is our support, both need to be bookkeeping. That way we never miss a beat. Right. Like, we'll have like double timers. That way if one person is like fighting when dragon goes down and one person's dead, one of us will get the bookkeeping down.
I don't, and that doesn't happen enough in solo queue or even normal games, where even if there's one person that is doing what we keep calling bookkeeping, one person's taking that dragon timer, it doesn't hurt to have 3 or 4 of those in chat at the same time. So be that guy. Turn into that guy that is saying dragon is going to be up at 17:10. Dragon's going to be up at 25:45, whatever it may be. Type it in every time. Do your buffs. Do flash timers, because you're making yourself a better player every time that you type those into chat.
Right,
something
and that helps.
I'm
so bad at typing about flash timers.
Yeah, something I've been doing to help me with the timers is you can turn the timestamps on, which help with Dragon and Baron, because you'll see which team has slain it at what time.
Right.
So then you can go back and look. But something else I've also been doing is when I notice like my red or blue buff or the enemy red or blue buff go down, and I don't necessarily have time to figure out like when it's going to respawn, I'll just hit enter, type something real fast, and hit enter again. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just gibberish. But then I can go back and look at the time and see when it's going to respawn.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess it didn't even occur to me people aren't using timestamps. Those are your best friends.
It didn't occur to me
They're
either because that's like so basic to me.
Yeah.
But
wait, is the team that you're playing with now, Recker? Like, I want you to talk me through a brand new team, because obviously you've been a part of. I want to say we were a pretty decent team in season 2. Obviously,
yeah,
not
we got
challenger level, but
got up to gold. That was pretty decent. Yeah, the guys I'm playing with now, I don't necessarily have the expectation that we'll make it to gold. But when I saw them advertising in the T-Force chat, like, hey, we're looking for a mid laner, and we're just trying to like learn and improve. I'm like, well, I've been trying to learn and improve at mid lane, so I'll join this team and practice mid lane myself.
Playing
and
that awesome TF skin you got.
I have not played Twisted Fate yet. But pretty much, yeah, it's like I don't have the expectation that we're going to be great, but they're, for the most part, so far we played 2 different days. We haven't played ranked, we just played range 5s, but they're very willing to listen, and I've been trying to shot call a lot and make decisions, and for the most part, people listen and respond to me, and I think that's helping them out just to become better players and be in position more.
Well, I would say a lot
but
of
it's
the
really
bronze
all
level,
just about the attitude of the players. If you don't get along and you can't communicate, then it's just not going to work. Like, that's it. If you can't communicate and don't get along, just drop it.
Yeah, I was on a team that was actually, we only played ranked 5s together because we were like played well together, but at heart none of us could stand each other. And we did make it far in ranked 5s. Like, we actually scrimmed and we were doing very well in ranked 5s, but as soon as ranked 5s were over, we were just like, all right, see ya, because none of us wanted to be by each other, and that team lasted all of 6 months and was not that fun. Where I've been on worse teams with people I like better and had way more fun, even though we're not performing as well. Like, that's a huge deal.
See, it's funny to me because my team's, again, the exact opposite. It's like a bunch of guys who just like playing with each other, so we're like, oh, well, we might as well do ranked. I mean, we got 5 here, might as well do ranked.
I like, again, the Urt Can't Stun team, we could bring that up. That was the old Trinity Force podcast team we talked about in Season 3. But, like, if you see the pro players and how they play together and how they all talk and they're all friends and everything, that's how I feel with this team, and that's the type of team that personally I want to be a part of, where I could sit down at a bar, like Josh and I, we went and sat at a bar together and, we drank beers and we, met in real life. And like, that's kind of what I want to be able to do. Like, I met the same guys over at the World's Party, and that's what I look for in a team, that I can get along with you guys, nobody annoys me, and I don't annoy anybody on the team. So
Hopefully,
well,
except for I was going to say, except for
you're
Recker,
pushing it.
I don't really talk during laning phase at all. Ask Josh. I don't really talk.
That's why I take the early.
learned to
calling
shut
your
up
own,
finally?
except for always calling for ganks.
Yeah, he just calls me for ganks all day long, and
No, I'm just like, hey, Flash is down. Flash should be up.
Getting upset when the jungler
Josh,
doesn't
you
show
should
up.
just be happy that like we already broke him of the habit of, oh my god, I'm so far behind. Oh my god,
he did. Oh, when I was first letting top lane,
I need help right now. I'm gonna lose. We're all gonna lose if my tower goes down. Get up here now, please.
I tell him from minute 1 if I'm ganking his lane. We'll go into games. And I go, just so you know, I don't care what happens in your lane. I will never be up there. So
have I really hardcore
anything,
lost the top lane since he started? Like, maybe once. Maybe
I'm just saying, if anything, Recker undersold what was happening.
I really did undersell that.
I was really bad for a while.
But no, I wanted to go back to what we were talking about how like Dom says like he just plays, with 5 guys that are his friends. Don't feel bad if you're not playing with your friends, because I play with another group of 4 other guys, and we just don't mesh in a rank 5s environment. So I went out and that's how I found like Pwn in them, because like I wanted a rank 5s team, and the buddies I played with, we didn't really mesh with. So like if the group of friends you're playing with, don't be shy or feel like worried about that. You can't go out and find 4 other people to play with that will mesh with you better.
That's right. As the weeks go on here, we're probably going to talk more about ranked 5s and how to play it, especially in a tournament environment. But since we've spent about a half an hour on this topic, I kind of want to kick us off, unless anybody else has anything that's a burning desire to get out right now.
My dick.
Nothing.
That's right. I knew that was coming. I was going to say, except for Recker's dick. But, so, this is actually a good segue into speaking about ranked 5s, because we have a mailbag question about XDG, and I want to see Dom on his soapbox. So we're gonna transition this right now into more ranked 5s topics. So Matt, he wrote into the podcast and he said, I was wondering what you guys thought about XDG moving Zuna to the jungle. Seems to me that has turned out to be a horrible decision. Care to shed any light on this?
Before Dom gets on a soapbox, because I know I won't get a chance to jump in there. One of the reasons I heard of that Zuna is in jungle now is not because he is good, per se at jungle or whatnot. It's because his brother manages the team. So they kind of have that family, thing going on. I personally think he was better at AD than jungle, but he is actually performing much better at jungle than I originally thought he would have done when I first heard.
he's actually been all over the place. I think he was a jungler, and then he converted to a top laner. And when he even applied to whatever XDG was so long ago, nobody even remembers, it was for their top lane role. And they decided they liked him for the team, but they wanted to see how he could do it marksman. And so he's kind of in a weird spot where he's never he's been all over the place. So it doesn't surprise me too much that he's back in the jungle and everything. The reasons Gnome Saiyan gave us was basically that Xmithy was the better mechanical player and wasn't necessarily as vocal as they were looking for out of the jungle. And Zuna is well known for being a really vocal guy, so they wanted to they moved him there to see how it would work out. Whether or not that's true, your rumor could be just as true. I really don't know. I really don't think Zuna is the specific problem with XDG right now. XDG has always won. They were always successful when they did really well in the early game and could basically just smash their opponents after a really strong laning phase. And, they had a very similar record to Cloud9. They were 25-6 or something like that. They really didn't lose that many games in the spring split of Season 3. But Worlds, just all of the international teams just highlighted how poor XDG was at playing the mid game. And it's not necessarily a lack of mechanical skill, they just really make some poor decisions. The Baron against, what was it, Gambit or OMG? It was one of the two. XDG had that game against whatever team it was, and then they made this call to do Baron, and the other team responded too quickly for them to get it done, and they lost the game because of that one call. And that, just by getting that kind of exposure against the international teams, showing how bad their mid game is, showed all of the North American teams exactly what they need to do to beat XDG. And even they won a game against CLG over the weekend and everything. I was traveling, so I could only listen to it on my phone. I couldn't actually watch what was going on. But based on what I was hearing, they made a lot of questionable decisions during mid-game that, not even all of them panned out. They just happened to recover well enough to still win the game. But they're, just watching the games, there's so many times, they look so good early on. And then they just start to falter in the mid-game. And, it's just one or two really small mistakes that end up totally ruining. Or sometimes really big mistakes.
Do you think this split just teams found how to exploit that mid game of them, because they were doing significant?
They haven't
this season.
You're right, but they haven't fixed their mid game woes yet. And it's funny that they haven't fixed that though, because Season 3 was all about the mid game. How many games? Every game we saw was push the mid game as quickly as possible, get down those 3 outer turrets, and start pushing in, taking jungle control, taking dragon control, and eventually grabbing Baron to seal it if you hadn't already taken down the middle or the second turrets. And XTG, watching them play now, they still haven't learned how to transition into that mid game or what the role of their mid game is in this current meta.
I do wonder who's doing the shot calling for XTG
I
right
feel
now.
It's supposed to be Zuna. That's what they say, right? It's supposed to be Zuna.
I don't know. I honestly don't know who it's supposed to be. Gnome said that's why they were, everybody thought that's why they bought Bloodwater onto the team in the first place, but then she came on the show and said no, he wasn't actually our shot caller, he was just better than Xmithy, or not Xmithy, better than Muffin Cutie. But I don't really know who the shot caller is, and whoever it is right now either isn't doing a good enough job of getting the team to follow him, or is making bad calls.
Yeah, but see, Zuna isn't playing poorly. If Zuna,
I don't think Zuna specifically is playing poorly.
No,
I don't think he's playing good. I don't think he's playing horrible, but I just think
it's the team. I think everybody on the team though is playing the same. I can't pick a person that is.
Man Cloud is not performing this season at all.
Okay,
and
that might be
a lot to do with his champion pool.
Right,
because Zuna and Man Cloud last season, weren't they the two stars of the team?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But Man Cloud needs a step up. For XDG to really push this out, they need to, work on their mid-game calling, and Man Cloud needs to step up and become play. We saw who was playing mid lane? Was it Chowster last week for CLG?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking EG. Sorry, I'm thinking EG with Pole Belter. Pole Belter got a level 1 kill versus Curse Voyboy as Gragas with an amazing flash play away from the Q and then back in with an E auto attack kill. And that's not something you ever see Man Cloud play that well.
I don't necessarily know if that was so much an amazing play by Pole Belter as much as a huge mistake by Voyboy.
Well, it was good. Like, but Pole
Boy,
Belcher.
boy,
I only heard the game. I
level
didn't
1.
see it, so I
You know,
can't-
yeah,
seen
yes,
it.
I can see with it. Go ahead.
I seen it, and like every time someone dies, it's more or less the other person. 90% of the time, it's the other person who died messed up. But Pole Belcher capitalized on that so fast. Like it was such an amazing play to actually watch Seed to see like him like think through that in a split second and pick up that kill.
And he continued to play properly for the most part throughout as the game progressed. Like he knew that if he died after that level 1, the game could snowball in Curse's favor because Curse had a snowball comp with Karthus top and Kazakh's mid. And Pole Belcher realizing that if he dies and puts himself in a precarious position, that he can totally turn that game into Curse's favor. And that's not something I feel like ManCloud has completely grasped yet. Like, I get that early kill. Now, do I make plays or do I just not die?
Part of me wonders if they really just haven't adjusted well to the vision changes. Like, everybody's adjusted, but, I would have to literally go back and compare VODs from the 2 seasons, and I just don't feel like doing that. But part of me really wonders if the team leaned way more on Bloodwater providing as much vision as he was, capable of, and now that he can't do that due to the ward limits, I wonder if that's sort of adversely affecting them, and like it's kind of this unrealized thing that from the outside, because it's also easy to try and blame one specific person,
Sure.
and not just the change between seasons like really is what affected their play.
Yep, that's true.
I still think EG doesn't know how to play the mid game. I don't think it has
You mean
anything.
XTG?
XTG, sorry, XTG. Well,
They definitely don't know. They definitely don't know how to play the mid game.
I don't think EG
don't
knows
know
how to play the mid game either. I mean, to be fair, EG is not really showing.
They are a brand new team.
I don't give a fucking Brady. You played all of season 3. I mean, you saw our shitty gold team be able to make a big improvement in 1 week by just doing dragon control. I think at that level, if you can start doing like ward improvements, that's a pretty big jump for a pro team.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just have to say this though. You're like comparing a gold level team making improvements to a top tier team
I
making
get that.
improvements, which is much smaller
No,
gap
that's
of
what I'm saying.
like
Like,
how
if
much
you
they could improve.
EG won that last game because of big ward control. They were making plays in the jungle. They were warding up
Yep.
the jungle. They were winning because they had the control of vision. And I think that at a pro level, a small change in where you're putting your wards and how you're paying attention to the wards is going to make a bigger impact than dragon control.
That's a good point too. One of the games that CLG won, Double Lift actually ended the game with like a green and a pink ward in his inventory, and you don't see that on AD carries normally.
Yeah, who's buying wards? It's still like the mentality is still supports buys wards, and I'll be the first to admit that in solo queue I don't buy that many wards, but in ranked 5s I'm always going back to base and buying at least 2, and I'm trying to ward up everywhere because I realize because we've been out visioned so many times that that's completely what's lost this game is being out visioned. It wasn't being outplayed. It was just they were in the right place at the right time because they had the information they needed to make those plays.
That's what League of Legends is it's an information game.
Yeah, I'm still coining Dom for that one. Dom brought that up a long time ago. Just say thank
Go
you.
me. Go me.
Yay!
Thanks,
Good
buddy.
job, Dom.
You're the best.
You know what? All things
Damn.
considered, I like this crew so far. Yeah, I'm just gonna kick Sean and Claude off and make you get out.
I get my spot back. Yeah!
No, just your penis does. The rest
Yeah.
of you out of there.
It's unfortunate.
There's something to be said about being able to bring 2 different groups of people together and still make a good podcast. So
It's all the hosts. That's what you're trying to get at, right?
thank you. I'm so glad you recognize that, Recker. I keep the podcast moving. Now you all understand.
Was the bait really that tasty looking, Recker?
Yes.
I just had to. I'm sorry. I know him too well. Like I have to play into it.
I know. You don't though. That's the trick. You just don't play into it.
But he's my best friend.
Thank you.
I've known him
He
since we were
said it.
young.
Podcast is over.
I think we were 15.
Oh my god, this is getting too mushy. We gotta move it. We gotta move it. Yeah.
Recker, do you want to touch my nipples now?
All right, you guys can do your own podcast.
Those things could cut diamonds. They're so hard.
Oh, baby. Okay. We're going to get into general questions now because we have, well, shit. We got about 20 minutes, 25 minutes left of the podcast, so let's do this. General questions. Is that Schmucker?
Yep.
All right, Schmucker, you're up, buddy. You wrote in and you said, I just hit level 30 and I've started to main top. I really like it, but I'm not sure about warding. Should a top laner buy wards every back, and where's the best place to ward?
I feel like this poor guy wrote back in November or something, and it's taken us this long to get to him.
Well, that's what happens when we have guests on.
Should a top laner buy wards? Yes. Should a mid laner buy wards? Yes. Should a jungler buy wards? Yes. Should a support buy wards? Yes. Should an AD carry buy wards? Yes. If you are playing the game, you should be buying wards.
Excuse me.
As far as where to put those in the top lane, you've got the River Bush and the Tri-Brush, which are probably the two best places to put those.
Pink the Tri-Brush. Always pink the Tri-Brush.
Yep.
If you're purple side. If you're
Either side, really.
No, you can do it. You can do it blue side, but you have to give up some CS to do it because you have to walk up through the lane or either go over that wall and then pink it and then walk back around. They still won't walk through it. Like a lot of people won't walk through that because a lot of junglers like to come up the river or through lane.
Yeah.
But you have to give up. You have to be willing to give up CS, knowing that you're going to make it back by having the extra vision control. I can't tell you the number of games that I've played by having that pink ward in that Tri-Bush that has allowed me to play overly aggressive and win the lane because of how much more aggressively that I can play.
And the reason he's advocating pink so highly here is because they don't expire. So you put 100 gold, and realistically, it's going to sit there for 10, 15 minutes and like just give you all of that security and vision. Like it's such a compared to trying to put a new ward down every 3 minutes. Like just having that ward there and knowing it's there, and like so even if it lasts 4 minutes, you've already you've had bonus returns.
Yeah, and the other thing with those pink wards is if you're ahead as a top laner and you know that the enemy jungler is around, your jungler can come up and then you can then 2v2 them in that Tri-Brush while they're trying to clear the ward. That's a fight bait. That's what those pink wards are for. That's why they're visible now. Is they're fight baits.
Yeah, exactly. And they bring them up there and they get them taken care of. But as a top laner, warding is not your number one priority until about 20 minutes. When you first, like when I go back, if I can afford all the items I want to buy, I buy those first. Like I'll buy a Giant's Belt, I'll buy a Brutalizer, a Hydra, whatever, how much gold you have when you go back. And if I have 100 gold left over, I buy a pink ward and I stick it in that bush. If I have 75 gold, I buy a green ward and I stick it into the bush in the river. Or I even walk down a little further. I might even stick it into red bush or blue bush. And this gives you more than one thing. This gives the jungler control of the enemy jungle. And this gives you control of understanding over where the enemy jungler is. Because as long as you have great map awareness, or even good map awareness, you will see that blip on the map where that jungler is coming up to get you, and you can walk out of there, and you don't need that bush, and it gives you more time to react.
Next question.
Yep, there we go. Pone just killed that one. Good job, man.
I'm a top laner. What do you want from me? No matter how much I complain about it. All right, next one. Bluzz Fiddler, you write in. What would you think about champions having specific weaknesses? For example, in 125... It made me laugh because how long ago you were talking about reverting the Jace nerf being instant OP. Let me do that. For example, in 125, you were talking about reverting the Jace nerf being instant OP. Could
lay off on the booze, man?
Fuck you. Could you're a tool stat work? You are more susceptible to stuns last initial 10% to keep him a little more manageable.
I instantly disagree with this idea, just because for me, that is a very unfun mechanic to be like, ooh, I want to play this champ, but I'm more susceptible to other stuff. It's different to be like more susceptible to damage through a mastery point or, something like that.
Overall damage, not a specific
overall
type of damage.
But you want to keep the game. You don't want to have like how you go down, because I can't think how I want to word this.
It's something Riot could reasonably do, because if you add weaknesses like that, then you get to make up with it through other strengths in the champion's kit. Jace might not be a good example because they've introduced him into the game as it was and done their best to balance him within the current state of the game. But if they wanted to introduce a mechanic like that, it is something that I do think is could be reasonably accomplished. That said, I think it would force a lot of champions into immediately force them into niche levels of play, because a lot of people would simply be hesitant to go with something that has that built-in weakness. Because all of a sudden, if somebody's weak to stuns, now your opponent team, unless you pick that champion, fifth, your opponent team can basically just pick a stun comp and take you out of the equation in the really early going. I don't think it's a bad idea, but it is. It's because I'm not a designer, because I don't have any hand in that. It's really difficult for me to come up with a scenario where that would be anything other than like a niche pick just for people who feel like being hipsters or different or whatever you want to.
I think this is a really bad idea right now in the game with 100 champions, because it's too hard to balance the game around bringing a new champion that is susceptible to stuns or susceptible to magic damage. I think if you were going to do this and you were going to make this a game point, it would have to be something that was started from the very beginning, from champion number 1. And then you would have to start balancing picks and bans around that. You'd have to, and I think it's too hard to balance the game around champions that have specific weaknesses than it is to bring resistances or to balance out resistances in a game. I think that's where Riot, it makes it easy for them, because you don't have to do all that extra Q&A. Think about how much testing and everything they have to do with these champions. Like, how do you start with champion with 30 magic resist, for example? Why doesn't he have 32? Because that makes him, be too resilient early game. Okay, but now he has 30 magic resist, but he's 10% weaker. That negates everything he just had. And I have to start balancing other champions around that.
Right. I mean, like, even think about Lissandra's passive, where she gets a free spell cast every certain certain amount of spell casts or a certain amount of time, if I recall correctly.
Yep. 7 spell casts or something.
It's every second. It's every few seconds.
Yeah. The way her passive, it's like every 18 seconds or something like. It's not a short amount of time, but it's not obscenely long. That passive alone affected both her mana, her base mana pool and her base mana regen.
Right.
Like, all of these things go into the equation. So yeah, you look at it and you think, oh, that's great, she gets a free spell. Yeah, but she suffers early game, like in the early game, because of a lower mana pool and a lower mana regen because of that passive.
And because of that passive, she can still cast the same number of spells as every champion early game for the first 6 levels, because she gets that free spell. We have to go obviously do the math, but she, like you said, she suffers from it. But once you make it past that point, that breaking point, now she becomes good at maintaining her lane and getting the extra free spell, because it's like every 12 seconds after level 6 or something.
It's actually why Tarek was in such an awkward place. He got nerfed in season 3. They changed the way his passive was from to bonus attack damage based on his mana to that's what they changed it to, from getting bonus mana or manus regen every time he auto attacked. Like, they didn't change his mana cost, so all of a sudden his base mana regen. So he had terrible mana regen and pretty difficult mana cost, because he used to have this mechanic that gave him mana back in exchange, and then that got taken away from him.
Right.
And now he's got his new passive, which is actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, I just don't think with this you're a tool mechanic, you can't. It's like picking and choosing type of thing. It's kind of like how I disagreed with how they changed the tier 1 towers, how 2 of them have a bonus armor and the bot lane doesn't. I don't agree with that either, because you shouldn't be able to just pick and choose what you want to do to a champ or to a mechanic in the game. It should be flat across the board, and then you can nerf numbers on across the tank.
I guess I fundamentally disagree there. They can do whatever the hell they want. It's in their game.
Well, they can, but I don't agree with doing
I think that is a whole nother conversation worth of 25 to 30 minutes that we can talk about, because I could disagree with you for about 20 minutes on that one. So
the problem I have with the whole stun thing, or giving a champion an inherent weakness, is like Dom said, if you give them that inherent weakness, you're going to have to give them some kind of inherent strength for it to make up for it.
Right.
And what you run into with that is then you end up with the enemy team either being forced to ban this champion, which is either going to be overpowered, or deal with it. And
right, like just a hypothetical situation where a champion is weak to ice spells. Well, if you're 5th pick and everybody else on their team didn't pick ice spells, well, now all of a sudden you have a champion who is supercharged for all intents and purposes, because he had this weakness otherwise, that you can now pick with no ramification.
Yeah, and it does add a little bit of depth to strategy to champion select, I guess. But it's a strategy that's probably not good for the game itself.
Yeah, considering how complex this game already is.
Well,
I do think it's an interesting idea. I do agree with the point that it's kind of a better thing introduced in masteries, like they already have with the whatever the hell that tier 1 offense mastery is.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, I actually like that a lot. I think that's really fun and allows players to, tune themselves a little bit, or say this is not worth, the risk is not worth the reward.
All right, Professor Moot. I think we're gonna move on to your question now. Thanks, Bud Fizzler. I appreciate that question. So Professor Moot, he writes in, do you think Riot's been designing new champions differently and more powerful than the older Season 1 champions? The newest champs are played the most, it seems, and the oldest are ignored. I mean, when's the last time Cyan saw serious competitive play?
Actually,
about 3 weeks ago, but
Yeah, a lot of that is actually mostly due to the technology of the game has also advanced as time has gone on, and they are able to do more things. I know with Lee Sin, they would planned on letting him out with like release or very early after release, but they didn't, and they held it off a long time because they couldn't get his kit to be how they wanted it, and they couldn't make him feel like a true blind monk, quote unquote. But once the technology got better, they were able to do this, and that's a lot of the big reason why you're seeing better champions that have more interesting kits.
I don't think they're necessarily better. I think they're just more complex.
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. It's really good for a game like this, and it makes those types of champions really fun and interesting. But it doesn't invalidate the older champions out there and everything. Annie has been around since the launch of the game, and she's one of the most picked, champions right now. She's not played in the role that they originally envisioned, but when they designed the game, the meta as it is right now, like the solo duo jungle, like that didn't even exist.
right.
Alistar has been getting a little bit of play lately. He's been around
Morgana.
for forever. Caitlyn has been around for a long time, and she's still
always been in the competitive scene. Always.
Yeah, and she's still a really good competitive pick. So just because a champ is old does not mean he or she or it is bad. Now that said, Scion's a weird case, and they've been talking about revamping him for a long time because, like, thematically he doesn't make sense. His abilities kind of don't make sense. Like, he looks like he should be this big, monstrous tank Hulk, and yet he deals tons of burst damage if he builds AP.
Well, he's two champions in one, really. He has
yeah.
He has an ultimate that heals. He has a shield that does tons of damage when you build AP. He has an E that gains him life and does extra damage. I mean, dude, how do you build him,
Yeah. I mean, like, that's a case where the champion, like, the game has evolved to a point where conceptually he just no longer makes sense and he needs to be looked at. And that's true. There are champions like that. That's the case, the way the game is right now. But the majority of the champions are still usable.
Yep.
Sure.
And
Go ahead.
they just got better at designing, like, when the game first came out, MOBAs were like not brand new, but they were an up and coming field. So,
I think to your sorry to interrupt you, but I think to your point, like MOBAs, you were playing with a different engine that could do different. Like when you had Dota, you had Pug who could throw his fucking chain like halfway across the field and pull someone to you, and that's not something you really saw in League of Legends when it first came out.
And like even if you look at some of the champs that are like still used, like say Tristana, you can still see the like bad champ designs in her kit with all the AP scaling. Where if they release an AD character now, they're gonna have mostly AD scaling. But that's just because they weren't as good as designing champs back then, and it's not that like the newly designed champs is just because they can actually think about it more. They have more brains. Like they've seen the mistakes they made in the past. So it's not that they're more powerful or anything. Like just because they're designed differently, it's just they're better at doing what they tried to do before.
Well, it's basically a case where when they originally started the game, ability power meant ability power across the board until they realized later on, wait, there's no reason AD couldn't stand for ability damage, so to speak. And like when that clicked for Riot, all of a sudden the AD champions really opened up.
Right. Well,
I mean, even Kale to a degree is kind of like a mess if you really think about her.
Kale is a big mess. I don't even want to get into that one.
She's like a mage, but she's a support, but she's kind of a long range sustained damage champion.
Right. All right, crazy Mr. BC. He writes in, moving on to this next question. How do you deal with common band supports like Annie or Blitzcrank? And do you think this mage bot meta is here to stay with Season 4?
I don't really run into that many weird mages in bot lane. Like most, unless you count Annie or Morgana, who I think like I'm still the only Morgana player. Karma's always been a support though.
Morgana has always been a support?
No,
Oh,
Karma.
he's saying
has
Karma.
Karma.
I see. She's
Karma
like
was
that weird,
released
like-
as a support. Her kit is 100% utility, other than her Q.
Yeah, and her Q is the same as Lulu's Q, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah,
Sure.
it really is. It's not.
Okay.
Like
doesn't have a whole lot of damage.
Karma and Lulu basically have the same kit. Aside from
I
their
can see what you're saying,
their ults.
Yeah, fair enough, fair
their
enough.
kits are basically the same.
Pretty close, yeah.
Right.
But I know, like I'm seeing in chat right now, at the lower elos, you do see like Nidalee, Lux supports.
Sure.
Okay.
So he
That's
may
fair.
be talking about those.
You know what?
That's
I don't even think that's
Thank you,
necessarily
listeners.
a symptom of like the meta. I think that's a symptom of players are realizing that the skill level of their opponents in the bottom lane and lower elo is just not that good, and they can abuse that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. How do you deal with that? You be better than your opponent, and you understand what the opponent is capable of.
Play the champ.
Slayer-
That's the best
Yeah,
way.
if you do come across a lane like that with like a burst mage, like a LeBlanc or something, play a farm lane. Don't even try and fight them. You're gonna lose.
I'll just say,
If
like,
you try and fight them, you're playing into it.
I'll just say, like he asked, like, how do you deal with Annie? Play Annie, and you'll lose, and you'll get shit on, and you'll learn how to deal with Annie. That's the best way.
Yeah, I mean the other thing, like, you can't let Annie get a leg up on you, and you have to acknowledge when her power spikes are.
Right.
Like when she starts to hit levels 4, 5, and definitely 6, just stay the fuck away from her. Especially if you haven't been back to base at all, but like even just in general, like because she is going to blow you up. You have to respect what Annie can do to you. I've lost way too many lanes because either I, on accident, or more likely my marksman chose not to respect what Annie could do.
More likely your marksman. Sure,
Yeah,
Dom.
right.
It's happened. It's happened more lately with my marksman, hasn't it, Adam?
Cheers.
No, not at all, Dom. I know what Annie's capable of. I just hadn't played for a week, so fuck you. I was too busy going on a bender. God damn it. Anyway, I think a lot of those people are going to play. Like, I was thinking about this today. I wanted to make a League of Legends tips in 7 seconds, but 7 seconds isn't enough to talk about how to be ready for ranked. And one of my tips was going to be able to play a support champion, whether that support champion is Thresh, Blitzcrank, Karma, Annie, Lux, Nidalee, whatever it may be able to play it to the best of your ability and understand what the enemy champions are capable of. Because in low elo, in bronze and silver, I could 100% carry a game as Blitzcrank or Thresh, like your normal support champions. And I could probably carry a game even harder if I was Nidalee or Lux, because they can do some kind of damage and they have some kind of lockdown, or and they have a little bit more. Lux has a little more of a support kit than Blitzcrank does, for example, because she's got a shield, right, supporting your player.
That's actually a good point. Like, my favorite way to carry solo queue isn't necessarily being the one that does the damage. In solo queue, you run into this like massive player base where 95% of people don't know how or when to initiate a fight. And if you're playing something like a Thresh, an Annie, a Blitzcrank, and you know how and when to initiate those fights, you can totally carry an entire game just off initiating fights.
That's how I've won a number of my solo queue. That's how I rode Annie to platinum, was initiating fights, flash stunning. I had one person yell at me, Annie, don't initiate fights. And I said, we came out. Why am I not initiating fights? I don't care if I die.
Actually, it's funny.
If you've seen the TSM versus C9 game this week, for anyone who hasn't seen it, spoilers, but Annie like initiated so many of their fights on TSMs, and she died 5 times compared to the next highest person died 1 time. But she was putting herself out there as that threat, starting those fights and dying for the team, and TSM won every team fight when she started doing that.
Right.
I honestly
was
don't know
funny.
why.
I had a
honestly don't
game
know why
where-
she's making it through the banning phase at the competitive level. I really don't.
Because
she's still
Kassadin,
ridiculous.
Kha'Zix, LeBlanc, Mundo, Shyvana, Olaf. I mean, you have 10 champions you need to ban, so you just have to pick and choose. Like, Kassadin is obviously a ban, so you only have
Yeah, that
5
makes
left.
sense. But I don't feel like Shyvana is single-handedly going to win a game.
Sure.
Oh.
But Annie, like, we have clearly seen Annie single-handedly win games.
Sure. I agree with that.
And it's just off that initiation. That's all it is.
It's the same thing with Leona. Leona Thresh, it's initiation. And well, here, I'll give it to you again, Dom. You called it out a couple weeks ago, and you said, I think the supports are where the bans need to be focused right now.
Yeah. No, it's just like I was looking at all the OGN stats when I was trying to. I was just seeing like what support trends look like between all the regions and everything. And in OGN, most of a lot of the bans are directed at supports. It was pretty common to see 3 or 4 support bans in a game.
I'm going to call out Reno right now in chat, he said Kassadin is overrated. I don't know if you are being facetious at all, but Kassadin bans are not overrated, because if you give Kassadin to anyone like Xpeke, Alex Ish, anyone, anybody that can play Kassadin, even anybody in solo queue, 1 kill is all it takes for Kassadin.
Well, and here's the thing. He doesn't have to kill you. He will kill your side lanes.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's his problem.
And
you can shit on him in lane, and he'll just go find your bad side lane and shit on them.
He just needs 300 gold. That's all he needs to get rolling. And you're like, oh, but you can't buy any items with 300 gold. Well, he's going to be sitting on something. He can start picking up. He suddenly finishes Rod of Ages. He's a little more tankier. Suddenly he can finish that Chalice of Harmony and have the cooldown reduction. Suddenly he can finish his tier into Catalyst. He has such high base damage and such high damage that he is a threat, and he has to be banned.
It's not even that he's a threat. It's that he is literally able to kill someone without any opportunity for counterplay, even at the competitive level.
Right. So that's. Sorry, Reno, for calling you out in chat, but the Kassadin is just one of the any elo. If you are you halfway decent with him, I am suck with Kassadin. I can carry a game as Kassadin. Hell, I'll do it tonight in the fan games. God damn it! Don't ban him, please. Let's do this last. I'm gonna skip a couple questions here and do this last one because this is easy. Veltus writes in, quick thoughts on Ghostcrawler coming to Riot.
My response, my knee-jerk reaction was, I don't care.
Well, wait,
Same.
do we want to go over who Ghostcrawler is first
Yes.
for people who don't know?
Yes, we should. He is
Wait,
the guy who
sorry.
buffed Frost Mages every single patch since Burning Crusade. That motherfucker.
So he was wasn't he the head?
He was the head champion or the head patch guy.
Head
at
class
Riot.
designer or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that
Yeah, Blizzard, right? For WoW.
for World of Warcraft. Yeah.
He's the guy who got blamed for a lot of things when he was, in fact, the person who was relaying the information. I'm not saying he didn't have a hand in the decision-making, but I find it difficult to believe that one guy was controlling and tuning every single aspect of that game the way
definitely
Ghostcrawler's
not.
getting blamed for. And
Definitely
that's
not.
why I don't care about Ghostcrawler coming to Riot.
You know what? I don't care about Ghostcrawler coming to Riot. The only thing I care about is World of Warcraft / Blizzard's patch. The way they patch the game. I don't want the way they patch the game to come, because when Blizzard patches the game, they nerf something completely into the ground until everything is nerfed, and then they start buffing. I like the way Riot is doing it right now, where they're slowly nerfing champions and then buffing them. I'm thinking Riven, for example. They nerfed her this last patch. They did a pretty, decent-sized nerf, but she's still powerful. And then they admitted, oh, that wasn't meant to be this way. With her health regen. Her health regen is way too low right now in lane. And they came back and said, we need to fix this. If this was Blizzard, it would take 2 months to get that patch out to fix that. And with Riot, it's been 3-4 weeks,
Well, did he come over? Ghostcrawler's just on the...
He's the head.
Oh, he's head now?
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
I didn't know
the
if he was
head
just
of
on the
the
team
patch.
or if he was the head of the team.
He is the head of the team. But I don't like how Blizzard patches, because everything Blizzard patch, they'll give something super powerful, like they'll make warriors really awesome, and then the next patch they'll completely nerf the fuck out of them. Completely destroy warriors. You can't play them in ranked 3v3s anymore. You can't play them in ranked 5v5s. And
they won't be good again until everything else gets nerfed.
Exactly. And see, that's why I like the only big ones I can think about this happening with Riot is like Olaf, where they just over nerfed him for 6 to 8 months, and they finally came back and realized, we gave him a little, too much.
Well, they said they
it
wanted
wasn't
him
that.
out of the game. It's like the Evelyn thing. Like, we don't know how to fix him. We're going to nerf him so he sucks until we can figure out how to fix him.
When they find something has a toxic element to it, they nerf it to the point where it's difficult to play, so that they can figure out what's wrong, but not ruin the majority of the player base's experience. Or, in the case of Kassadin, make the champion a must ban. And they're trying to figure out what to do to Kassadin. They literally done everything they tried to nerf him either just doesn't work or doesn't get the job done.
Right. Well, when I saw for Casting, I thought they were going to do a slight rework. I thought I read this week.
That's their new take on
They
it.
have been doing. We've been talking about Kassadin for 6 months now of what they're doing.
Since
There's
like
no reason
October.
to talk about him anymore because nothing's going to be final until it's final.
Right. We won't talk about him again. So, I think that about does it for this week. Did it feel like an hour, Josh?
Yeah, it's been an hour.
Did it feel like an hour?
No, not at all.
It's been exactly an hour. Shit.
Yeah, it did not feel like an hour. It was fun though.
See, podcasts can be fun when you actually have a good crew.
Yeah, I
Man.
forgot how fast
And you have a
time
good
flies,
host,
honestly.
too, who looks
Good.
awesome.
Burning those guys who aren't
He's an
even
8 at best.
Cardigan.
8,
the cardigan
please.
that made
I'm at
time
least a
fly.
9.5. So, guys, that's episode 132 of the Trinity Force podcast. I saw that, Dom. You guys can check us out over at youtube.com/TForce podcast. As always, trinityforcepodcast.com to go check us out. And we'll be live again on Wednesday at 8 o'clock Eastern time. That's it.
Oh, also follow at Recker N. I'm gonna try
Do
to start
not
streaming
follow at
more.
Recker N's penis.
I'm gonna try and start streaming more, so I'll be posting on Twitter.
Please let me know when you're streaming so we can have that set up properly. Anyway, guys, that's episode 132 of the podcast. Stick around if you're watching.